Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to What's Up Wednesdays, the professionals at the Roundtable. As always, brought to you by Healing Your Way, and you can find Healing Your Way on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, all the places. If you like the podcast, please do not forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with all of your friends. Today, we are joined by 3 special guests. Would you guys like to introduce yourself? Going once, going twice.
I guess I'll start. My name is Pratik. I'm a nutritionist, and I'm just here to. This is my first time coming on the podcast as a nutritionist, and I just want to share to everybody what I'm about, pretty much.
I'm Alex. I think I was on a Professionals of the Roundtable episode before. I think back in May with Britt and Mike, and very delighted and enjoyed to be back again, along with my other podcaster, and his name is.
Yeah, and my name is Michael. I'm a student at third year at Thomas Jefferson in exercise science program, and this is my first time on the uh, Wednesday podcast, guys.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. So I think we have the perfect group of people here to talk about today's topic, which is exercise and nutrition, which I think sometimes gets overlooked that they very much do go hand in hand. Is there one, in your particular opinion, that plays more of a role in general overall health and wellness than the other?
I think both of them are just as equally as important, and I think to make a comparison between the two would be unfair between both of them, as they both play fundamental roles in uh, different lives, where one might be more um, important in an individual's life than the other one. And that's something that we, as a group here, are ready to dive into in today's episode, where something that's just bigger than fitness in that sense is about transformation with nutrition or with CPT. And it's not just of the body or the mind or the lifestyle, it's even the way we carry ourselves in this world. And you can talk about behind the scenes, about certifications, about studying, or even about challenges. And I think it's time, like we have decided as members of Healing Your Way, to put it all out there. And not just to prepare ourselves privately, but to build something more openly together with you, our listeners. And I think it's safe to say that fitness, it is flooded with noise, and those quick fixes or overnight transformations and shortcuts, they do promise those results, but it can leave people burned out or even injured. And what we're talking about today is kind of the opposite of those shortcuts, and if you can say that. We're talking about discipline here, knowledge, and more importantly, credibility. And here's the exciting part. We're not just telling you about it. We're going to be building a challenge by the end of this episode where we're going to walk through the process step by step. And you'll get to see us study, prepare, and test ourselves. And most importantly, apply those lessons that we can learn in real time. And I think that's like that question helps me dive right into my next spiel about the path of certification and why it even matters. Um, and like, why should anyone even care if a trainee, has 3 letters after their name, like ISSA or NCCPT? And I think it's safe to say that the truth is certification isn't about ego. It's about trust. And it's about proving that the person that guiding you understands the body, understands the safety, and has passed a standard that says, yes, this person is competent. And with the NCCPT exam, for example, it's no joke. It's 2 hours, 140 multiple choice questions, and it's a closed book. And like if you pass, for example, you've proven your knowledge under pressure. And facilities like gyms and fitness change look for that NCCA accreditation because it tells them and their members that you're just not another person who likes to lift. You're a professional at it. And I think this is a question I can ask all of you. If you were putting your health or your body or your future into somebody else's hands, wouldn't you want them to know what they're doing? And yeah,
I mean, I would definitely say that I would want them to know what they're doing so that I would know that I'm in valuable hands and I'm actually going to meet the goals that I aspire to meet and put my work towards.
Mhm.
yeah, and if you really think about it, if you're working with a mechanic, you want them trained, right? It's just like a obvious statement there. And you're working with a surgeon, you're expecting them to be like board certified, right? The training here is no different. And that's where it gets personal. For us, certification is also a declaration. And it's not here, we're not here to dabble, we're here to commit. And to master physiology, nutrition, psychology, and safety, and to raise that standard in an industry where too many people sort of wing it in that sense. And for the listeners, this is where you guys come in. Maybe you're not planning to become a certified trainer, but that's okay. Here's the key: your life still deserves that certification level attention. You deserve to learn from credible people, follow those credible plans, and give your body the respect it deserves. And certification really here, it draws that line between the passion and the professionalism, between trying and mastering. And that's the energy we're carrying into this challenge we're going to get later on in this episode. I think now that we've talked about that, it's time to talk about the real person and what they do to succeed or fail in fitness. And it comes down to a lot of things, but it's not solely about the exercises and it's not about that fancy equipment. And in a way, it's not solely just on the diet. It's the behavior, it's the motivation, it's the psychology of change. The ISSA materials go even deeper into this. They teach us about the trans theoretical model, the stages of change, the pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and more importantly, maintenance. Um, and if we broke that down in real terms, pre-contemplation is denial. Someone saying, I don't want to change. And contemplation is when you need change, but you're just not ready to commit. And preparation is, them buying those gym memberships or sneakers. The action part is showing up, doing that work, putting in those hours. And the maintenance is when the behavior becomes a part of who you are. And here's like the real kicker. It's that nobody moves through these stages in a straight line. People loop back and they stall and they relapse. And that's completely normal. And really, though, that's what separates the ones who stuck from the ones who push through. It's the ability to connect those goals to values and to dig deeper than rather just saying, I want a six pack, I want abs, or I want to lose 10 pounds. Those surface goals really do fade in that sense. And what lasts is that meaning, the goal means to you on a personal level. So, for example, saying, I want energy to play with my kids, or I want confidence to walk into any room. We also know that workbook motivation comes in two forms. For you that don't know, it's intrinsic and extrinsic. And intrinsic is when the dive comes from within, that enjoyment, that pride, and that purpose. And the extrinsic is when it comes from the outside, those rewards, those validation, that temporary pleasure. And both matter in that sense when you're looking at the goal, but the intrinsic is what keeps you going when nobody's watching. And this is why, accountability, goal setting, and even challenges like the one we're starting are powerful because they keep that motivation alive long enough to turn those behaviors into habits. And I would say the greatest exercise program in the world means nothing if you don't believe you can stick to it. Our job as trainers and your job as listeners in this sense in your own lives is to believe and build that belief first. And once that belief is there, those results will follow. Now, if we shifted gears into something that doesn't sound exciting, for example, like the backbone of safety training, assessments, and forms, every certified personal trainer uses those intake forms, those health questionnaires, those dietary logs, and those liability waivers. But one might ask why. It's because that fitness model is not like a one size fits all type of model. If you think about it, a health history form might uncover that a client has high blood pressure, and a PARQ might show that signs of a heart condition, whilst a dietary log might reveal that someone is skipping meals, but not out of choice because of bad habit. And these aren't just boxes that, are used to check. They're clues. They're clues that help a trainer design a program that fits rather than forcing someone into a cookie cutter routine. And I know I just mentioned liability waivers, but I wanted to touch back on that. At first glance, they seem like paperwork to protect the trainer, but if you really think about it on a deeper level, it's about respect. It's about the clarification of risk. And it's about creating that partnership where both trainers and clients are accountable. And if you really applied this to your own life, you could ask yourself, have you ever actually assessed yourself before starting a new plan? Have you ever asked, what injuries am I working with? What medications might affect me? Am I really fueling myself properly? And I think forms of that sense teach us about that respect, and results go hand in hand. And it's about that respect for the body, that respect for those limitations, and the respect about the process, about that whole journey, where you have to look at the journey as a whole rather than just a destination.
I think that's very well spoken, especially looking at it as a whole is so important. It's so easy to get caught in the moment and kind of lose the end goal along the way. You use a lot of abbreviations there, so I'm doing my best to stay and keep up with you. How do you keep your clients or keep the people that you're working with focused on the journey?
Well, I think if you were to give that a one sentence or one paragraph answer, it wouldn't do justice to the question itself. I think you would have to deep into kind of what I mentioned before about that respect, self-respect, and about keeping that motivation. But it would be like a whole other episode where you could focus just about discipline and about keeping that accountability for yourself. Because if you don't want to be that better version of yourself, even as a personal trainer, you can't help other people if you don't have respect for yourself. And with your clients, it's the same sort of process. You got to ensure that your clients are on the same level and goal as you. And it's about, I touch all on CPT, and I'm sure Prit here, he's a certified nutritionist. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
So I just want to start out to say that my job is that I teach people how to live a lifestyle and how to eat healthy and get right so that they don't have to see me anymore and that they can continue on with their lifestyle on their own without my help. And I just want to say that a lot of people, when it comes to nutrition, they focus on the macronutrients like carbs, fats, and proteins, which are important. But a lot about nutrition is also includes the micronutrients, and these are important because they affect your hormones and many systems in your body, and they basically are silent drivers of your body that regulate a lot of things that happens. Some examples are like iron, which is used in heme in your blood, and this basically controls how your fatigue on in your oxygen intake, and it also controls like the energy that your muscles are getting and how long you can continue a strenuous activity. Vitamin D, for example, is linked to sunlight, and depending on where you are, you might not get enough vitamin D. You might need supplementation, and it is important for your bones. And then even like minerals like magnesium, which is involved in around 300 enzymic activities, and having that great amount of activities, it affects many regulatory systems in your body. Do you guys have any questions for me as a nutritionist, or?
Trying to figure out how to phrase it. Everyone has to bear with me. I have had a singular cup of coffee this morning, so caffeine is dwindling. What are the key aspects that you would focus on in addressing each individual person?
What they taught us at ISSA as Alex was training is one size does not fit every shoe, or one size does not fit all. And I would say this because everybody is in a different path on their nutrition journey. Nutrition varies depending on what your goal is. And an athlete would not have the same nutrition as someone who's simply trying to lose weight, or they might have some kind of condition that they need a supplement or work around with their diet. And that's where I come in to help them figure out how to have a healthy relationship with food, because food is what is like the driving force of your entire day, to be honest, because everything that you eat, as long as it's whole foods, will turn into ATP and fuel your body. And the important part for this is you don't want to eat empty calories. And I'm sure many of you have heard that phrase, and basically means a 200 calories soda won't be as rewarding as, let's say, like simple protein like steak or even simple carbs or complex carbs.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking for what their end goal is.
Mm-hmm. And we also learn strategies such as motivational interviewing and the 5 stages of where a person's at to help us gauge where they're at in their journey. For example, an athlete that is consistent and goes to the gym every day, he might already have that down, while someone else might not. But that athlete might also have problems late snacking at night, and that's where I would come in and help them fix their lifestyle. Because I'm not just here to like give meal plans, but I'm here to help people figure out like how to get good habits and reach their goal in a way that's efficient for them.
Yeah. How do you fix late snacking at night?
For this, some habits are really hard to avoid. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say I never snack late at night. But with these things, it takes time. It takes really nutrition's a lot of it's psychological, because you really have to have a strong mental aptitude to be able to push through some of these diets that you may be on, and things like that. So we would have to take it one step at a time. Even switching out a soda for, let's say a bottle of water, like a single time in your day, that would be like a huge change. And over time, implementing these tiny changes will reconstruct the way that you live your whole life and your relationship with food.
Baby steps. I also want to throw out that we have Limbo in the chat with a donation. Thank you, Limbo. Said, you youngings sure are inspiring. Do you guys have a website where I can get my grind started?
I would say that if you want a good start to figure out where you're going, you can check out Even Healing Your Way. I'm sure they have resources. Me and Alex will be on there to help you out. And all you have to do is reach out to us and we can help you out.
Yeah, and on the website there are also questionnaires, again, with not everything one size fits all, so you guys can fill out, and then it leads to different other questions where it narrows down and solves whatever problem that you really need fixing.
Oh, that's awesome. Customizes it for you. Are we going to see Michael on Heal on Your Way too?
Yeah, so again, both are nutritionist and CBD, and I am working on both of those certifications. Again, at Jefferson, I am taking classes similar to those. And I also want to be upfront. Sitting in the classrooms and reading textbooks didn't always click for me. So there were times where I walked out thinking, oh, and by the way, this is all going to apply to you guys too as like a framework. So there are times I walked out the classroom thinking that I actually learned something. But here's the thing, and what I realized is that education doesn't always show up in the way you expect. And sometimes it's not about memorizing, every equation or every muscle origin or insertion, but sometimes it's about patience, discipline, and realizing that knowledge, like, it really only comes alive when you put into practice. So, and this is also where it breaks off into usually the topics we discuss on Friday podcast for Jack Cruz. And so that's why Jefferson didn't cover everything. And what we talk about on the podcast, like such as the circadian rhythm, light exposure, grounding, and even deeper nutritional frameworks, like the epipaleo approach and the challenges that we went through, or these guys went through. And that's where I had to take that step outside the classroom. So just for the audience, you need to take that extra step outside of your life and really, like Alex said, reassess everything before you go into practice and just realize the situations that you might be in. And listening to Jack Cruz talking with you guys about CBT nutrition and like experimenting with techniques, that's where, for me, the missing pieces started to fall into place.
That's awesome. And for Alex, it sounded like you have a lot of knowledge that you want to share. If you want to take the mic back, I think everybody's interested to hear.
Oh, it would be my pleasure to share my wisdom with the rest of the world. I guess I can tell you guys about the knit and grit about my CPT journey to becoming certified. As I recently just got certified around a week ago, and I can tell you at first, the coursework, it sure felt overwhelming. You're taking topics like anatomy, physiology, biomechanics. It's a lot. And then I realized this isn't about memorizing, it's about the mastery of those subjects. And every time I learn how the body adapts to stress, how the energy, systems fuel us, or about how behavior can actually change sticks, I realize I'm not just becoming a trainer. I'm becoming someone that can guide people through transformation with that clarity and that confidence. And I think it's safe to say that my CPT journey has also really humbled me because the more I learn, the more I understand about how individual health is way more important than it is, or like that status quo. It's not saying that it's like it always be more um, value. I feel like it's very undervalued in today's day and age. And two people can have the same goal, but might need completely different approaches. And I think that's the beauty about this certification. And I know I've been edging it, but I'm gonna talk about the challenge eventually in this episode. And what makes those so powerful is not just about that theory; it's about applying that knowledge in real life. So I wanted to ask you guys, um, like I'm gonna ask for maybe Michael, because Michael's not completely CPT certified yet, but what his take on some of these questions are, and then I want to back it up with my CPT logic that I recently acquired. So you ready, Michael?
Always, bro.
So I think a general question here is how much exercise do I really need to be healthy?
Of course, that depends on every person. And if you are a person that doesn't usually exercise, you can slowly, gradually build up. Therefore, you don't burn out. For how much exercise, it's really enough where you want to reduce or lower any problems that you might be having in your life. So even over exercising can be a bad thing. And for that, I would generally say most people, if you can go 4 or 5 times a week, maybe like an hour. You can fit that into your time schedule. In the program, it really depends on what you are trying to improve. So that would be my answer.
Now that was very well worded, and I don't think so I have much to change to that, other than just saying the CDC and ACSM, they really do recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardio per week, or even 75 minutes of vigorous activity like running. And you take that with the 2 to 3 days of strength training for those major muscle groups. And shout out to the Coin brothers because I know they actually do this. But here's the key: it's more isn't always better. It's that consistency that beats that intensity. And even those 20 minutes a day can make a huge difference in mood, energy, and that long-term health. I think if anybody wants to add to that question, you can go ahead. I'll let anyone move on. We all good?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, we were just reviewing over how much exercise does like a person really need to be considered like healthy.
Oh, I feel like this question would depend on where the person's at and what their like activity level is during the day. Because a lot of people do different amounts of activities. Where one could have a hobby of walking around their park every night, or they might be in a soccer club and play soccer all day. And these activities apply um, increase your resting, like how many calories you burn while you're resting, and they also show how many calories you burn, like in your daily activities throughout your daily life, and these differences really add up. How much exercise someone would need, and all these activities are essentially cardio, but other people can also be working at construction and uh, be getting strength training that way, and that might also affect how much training they might need in the gym.
And I would also add not to wait for any health scares to start exercising. It's very important to start as soon as possible, and just you can gradually build up. You don't have to make it a crazy high intensity unless that becomes a hobby later down the road. But it's always important to just think 2 3 steps into the future so that no problem occurs.
Very well said. And I think we covered everything for that question, right? Now, I want everyone here to answer this question, which is I think there's no right answer with this one, but what's more important, diet or exercise?
Well, as a nutritionist, I would say, in my opinion, that diet would take the cake on that one. I think, as you said before, that they're both important, but of course, it depends on what your fitness journey is and what your goals are. For someone that just wants to get lean or lose weight, they might need as much exercise as much as they would need to focus on their diet and what they're eating. Because all kinds of food can affect your metabolism, hormones, and the way your body metabolizes and how efficient it is at burning fat from calories. So, yeah, I would say it depends. But with a nutrition and diet, as long as you have a good diet, this would help you in your overall lifestyle so that you wouldn't need that morning coffee or you wouldn't feel tired all day. As long as you have a good balanced diet, you could just move out throughout your day without needing to rely on external factors because you already have that energy within yourself from what you're eating and what you use to fuel your body. So think of whole foods as like high grade like fuel, and all the junk food that you put in your body as in regular fuel. and this can even affect how good your workouts go, and how energized you are during your workouts can impact your results in the gym as well.
Yeah, I would have to agree. As hard as this question is, because both are very important, and first I would tend to lean to the exercise part, but when it comes down to it, it's really what you're putting into your body that affects more factors than just how good of a workout you had to pump or if you were able to lift a certain amount of weight. So it would have to come down to nutrition. Yeah.
And Tara, what would you say?
I feel like I agree with them because at the end of the day, if you don't have food in your body, you don't have the energy to exercise. I think that might be the first step, even though they are both very important, obviously.
And I think there's people out there too who you can survive without like exercising. They could just be walking normally, like if you're forced to walk from point A to point B, like that might just be all you need to do, and they're able to survive still.
Yeah, or even
So
people with
ranking,
labor-intensive jobs.
yeah. So it comes down to prioritizing which one's actually more important. So I would say nutrition.
Yeah, I think you guys all had really good answers. And kind of just like a recap for this question, I think both really do matter, but for very different reasons. We can all agree to that. Well, exercise, everyone knows the basics. It builds that strength, that bone density, and that cardiovascular health. But the diet is the one that fuels all of that and drives that body composition. And if you really think of it, it's like exercise is like the architect and nutrition is like the construction material. I think that's a good analogy. And you can't build with like bad materials, and you can't design them without the structure. So they kind of play that like hand in hand, where the best results come when both of them align. Um, I think I'm going to move on to the next question then. How does one stay motivated if they keep falling off track?
So to help with the motivation issue, there's a lot of different strategies people use. Like they take pictures. I'm sure you all know, and maybe you've done this, but we all take pictures showing to track our progress. You basically just need to know that even if it's like a slow journey, that you are slowly progressing towards your goal, and that the progress that you have done is a sign that you should not give up and that you should keep going. And we also have different strategies that we can use to help people push towards their goal. Uh, Basically, your diet will just give you the motivation you need by making you feel good, and yeah.
I think setting short and long-term goals as well is very important, and making sure the short terms, the ones you do have, do correlate with the long-term ones, just so you don't go off track. But that's also why short term is important because you can always tweak it, whereas your long term is not as tweakable. So I feel like those two are very important when trying to keep on track and stay motivated in the gym. But it also comes down to that self-discipline that you need in order to, because not all days you feel motivated to go out and do like whatever it is, whether it's working out or completing a project or whatever it is. So you got to have that self-discipline as well.
No, I definitely agree. Um, I also like the idea of making your end goal a lot more feasible. I feel like it's all too often that you see people who say, "I want to lose 100 pounds by the end of next year or the end of this year," and we're already in September. So I feel like if you make your end goal bigger than life, then it's not going to be achievable and you're going to continuously feel defeated and demoralized. Whereas if you say, I want to lose 25 pounds and be healthy doing that by the end of the year, you're more likely to actually succeed in reaching that goal.
We have something called SMART goals that we apply to our training and how we approach problems. And actually, one of the acronyms in SMART stands for realistic. So your goal would have to be realistic, as you were saying, and that would be a big help to making achievable goals.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything you guys said. You guys really touched on everything. I think one can easily understand and establish that motivation is temporary, and what you need is those systems. Just like just said about those SMART goals, that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, really. Those goals is what's going to stick through. And building that accountability by tracking those habits or partnering it up with a friend. So it's like you got to double up, right? And most importantly, connecting your goal to something meaningful. Again, I think I reiterated this earlier. It's not just saying I want abs for the sake of having abs.
Mm.
It's, the energy for you to do stuff on like a deeper level. I want to go to like a really intense park, and start rock climbing, and it takes a lot of energy and strength to do something like rock climbing. And it's that purpose that sustains you when that willpower fades away. Now, I think this might be a little bit out of our reach in terms of knowledge, but I think it would be great just to hear your guys' opinion on this question. Is strength training safe for beginners? What do you guys have to say about that?
I would say, if you want to go first, Michael, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I do think strength training is good for beginners. There's even times where I do, let's say you see your grandparents and they seem more fragile, you kind of wish that they had begin. So you can always begin it at any level. It's just a matter of uh, knowing again where you want to go with that strength training and training under good technique and safety. Because there's many times you might go into the gym and you see someone doing something with the wrong technique and you want to just say something. So, yeah.
I feel like there's different kinds of strength training. So somebody might use strength training to help fix imbalances between your muscles, or someone might be doing strength training with the goal of becoming, like, let's say, a bodybuilder. But I feel like strength training should be okay, um, like around the age of 12, 14. So you give your body some time to adjust. But as long as you know what your limit is and how far you can go with your reps, and you don't try to, you slowly progress towards a higher weight, and you don't try to jump too far in weight where you could be like possibly an injury or dangerous. I feel like strength training is okay for people to do when they're younger.
They got it. They've got my answer. Also, not to derail you at all, but we do have a question from the chat. They said that they feel really bloated all the time and would like to know what they should do.
So I think it's a good question. A lot of us may feel that way, and there's obviously varying underlying causes of that bloating. And I could list them off right now. Eating too fast or swallowing air while drinking those carbonated drinks, that could easily cause that. Eating those foods that are harder to digest, those high FODMAP foods. I know Prit did the FODMAP diet in the summer. He knows a lot more about that than me. Um, not drinking enough water can also really, I know it doesn't sound like that, but it really does increase that bloating. And because it's due to it causing and slowing digestion. And I think even like on a level you can control, or you can if you really take action, those hormonal shifts or stress, which can really affect how your gut works. And I think now that we underline those causes, I think we can go over now about how to, minimize that bloating. I think we would start with, I would advise slowing down whilst eating, chewing thoroughly and avoiding those gulping during drinks. Tracking your meals for a week would also be a very good, step for you to take, seeing if those certain foods consistently cause that bloating. And a dietary log, like, I will, uh, I'm sure you will find it eventually. Like the ISSA 3-day log is perfect for this, and we'll find a way to link that in the chat. Staying hydrated, again, I can't emphasize this enough. The water really does actually help with reducing bloating, and it does not make it worse. And I think consistent exercise is also, I think I could safe to say it's mandatory, in that sense. Even if it's some light activity, that walking can really help the digestion. And I think it's safe to say if you notice the bloating is, paired with the pain or major changes in weight or that digestive distress, I think it'd be safe to check out a doctor to rule out, any of those allergies you might have had or intolerances or conditions. So bloating is a perfect example of, those usually manageable small lifestyle tweaks. And I think it's like that constant reiteration that we've been talking about here at Healing Away. Listen to your body, and you can find your own pathway from there. It's your body. It's going to tell you what it needs and what it doesn't.
Absolutely.
I think Alex said that beautifully. If I had to add anything, I would just add my experience with the FODMAP diet. So with the FODMAP diet, it's an elimination diet, and basically you eliminate all the foods that are high in FODMAPs, which are different kinds of sugars. And these high FODMAP diets basically can irritate your stomach, and it can be person specific. So something that's high FODMAP that irritates you might not irritate someone else, for example. And for example, some of these FODMAP foods are like garlic, onions, and a lot of foods that even I wasn't aware was high FODMAP were in there. So I feel like it would be really eye-opening for everyone to try this diet. And you have to give this diet time as well, because your body needs time to digest and apply dietary changes that you're having to see how it affects you later on and see if your gut health is good. And a lot of bloating is actually caused by bad gut health, and doing a cleanse of your gut with a FODMAP diet or any other way would be beneficial to reduce bloating. And as Alex said, water is also really important. A lot of people think they'll get bloated from water, but water actually has detoxifying properties, which can help cleanse your gut as well, and carry out toxins through the urinary tract. And yeah.
And I just want to add that frequent bloating can also be a signal that maybe there's something going wrong in your digestive system. So maybe it might be processed food, so stuff high in refined sugar, artificial ingredients, or unhealthy fats, and that tends to be harder for the gut to handle. So like disrupting the balance of bacteria in your intestines, and it creates the more gas in your bodies that breaks them down. So shifting over to whole food, fresh fruits and vegetables, or lean protein, foods with natural water in them already usually support smoother digestion, and they also provide fiber, hydration, and nutrients without the additives. So, and again, hydration plays that important role, like both have said. So if it's frequent or painful, it's very important not to ignore it. And also, it's good to check with healthcare providers so you can identify any underlying issues, whether testing or a more personalized nutrition plan might be needed as well.
I would just like to tag on that I forgot to mention, you want to avoid, and I mentioned this earlier, but late night snacking. eating too close to bedtime is a bad thing. It might be related to why you're bloating, but when you sleep in bed, that time is for your body to help digest and basically reset your systems and get you ready for the next day. And sleep is supposed to heal you as well. And as we mentioned before on previous podcasts, but that also ties in with circadian rhythm and your sleep cycle and how beneficial it is to your everyday life. So you want to avoid not eating at least like around 2 to 5 hours before you go to bed because you need that time to digest. And because when you sleep in a sleeping position, your body is not in the most efficient position to help digest your food because it's working against gravity when you're in a sleeping position.
What is the best sleeping position?
Well, I'm not too sure about what the best sleeping position is, but I know that it's very beneficial for a lot of people to sleep straight up on their back, because it'll help like not cause any imbalances on if you sleep on a particular side. And I feel like most sleeping positions are generally can have similar effects.
I'm partial to starfish.
I see another question in the chat. It says, sometimes I feel I need someone to encourage me for a while to create a new habit. If not, then I feel lost. I think this is a great question. It takes a lot of courage to say something like this. And I can say full-heartedly that you're not alone. A lot of people feel this way. And motivation by itself fades very quickly. And that's where that accountability that we've been stressing about for so long in this episode comes in. And having someone that encourages you in the beginning helps you push through the hardest part, which is the start. And having that someone, by that someone, in most cases, it should be you. You should be your number one person to keep pushing yourself to keep going forward. And the key here is how to build up that accountability, even if you don't have someone cheering you on, like I just said. And it's finding those strategies. First you can start off with a accountability partner, a friend, a coach, or even you can join an online community and tracking your progress visibly, using a journal, an app, or even a calendar, just taking a day off saying, oh, I did my exercise today, I took care of myself, I fed myself with whole foods, I'll cross it off for the day. And you keep doing that, the streak, I don't know, for me it feels satisfying just crossing, a to-do list almost each time you get something done. I think that's how you really set up that success in that way, where you turn seeing that progress into building momentum. And, you can start off small, like we said earlier in this episode, saying, I only will work out 5 days a week. Or it could even start, I will move for 10 minutes every day, right? You can't just go from 0 to 100 in one day, right? That wouldn't be very realistic. And it's those smaller wins that really are easier to stack into habits. And I think also it's safe to say once you do start building up those new habits, feel free to reward yourself. Reward yourself with something non-food related so it doesn't hurt you. Like when you hit that streak, go and get some new workout gear or take like a day trip, go camping or something. And I think it's important to remember, just as a closing thought here, that encouragement is like training wheels. You might have to start, but once the habit stabilizes, it's your own progress that becomes that motivation. Do you guys have anything else to say to that question?
Yeah, I feel like also too often people wait until they feel they're ready or until life calms down a bit. But if you're really thinking about it, the perfect timing doesn't exist. So even picking one habit today, and it doesn't have to be dramatic or life changing, but it could be as simple as drinking a glass of water when you wake up, maybe taking that 10-minute walk after dinner for digestion, or turning your phone off 30 minutes before you go to bed. And when you choose something small and doable, you build that trust currency with yourself, and that trust is what creates that confidence. So it's also important that you're not the only ones doing this alone. So that's why here at the Roundtable, we're here to keep reminding you that change isn't always a giant leap, and it's about the consistent steps. So we're walking through this path and leading with you guys as well. That's why we do the challenges, adjusting and encouraging everyone along the way. So today you can just start with one habit, one step a week or a year at a time.
I like that. Take manageable steps.
I would say that these two pretty much explain what I was thinking, but with the phrase "one small step for man is a giant leap for mankind," I would say the small step is you taking your first, changing your first habit, and then the giant leap is you moving towards your goal. Because that first step, usually for most, is the hardest step, because that shows that they're ready now to be dedicated to their goal and they want to change.
Also, at the same time, it can be like a snowball effect where, Alex, you said it's like checking one thing off the list feels really good. So you want to keep doing more and more things that you technically know could be holding you back, but you're just not doing it. So taking that first step will open the pathway for many other goals to be completed.
You got to face the unknown, face the scary. And we have one last question in the chat as well. Is there anything I can do to help my sleep in terms of nutrition? I know we talked a little bit about just kind of spacing out your last meal of the day. Are there any foods, any dietary changes that you've taken or you know of that can help improve the quality of sleep as well as the quantity?
So the quality of your sleep, it can be affected by, like, honestly, what you eat. But you would want to eat a more heavy breakfast towards the end of the day. We all know how much we eat makes us all feel tired, right? So applying that to your diet, changing around what time you eat, how much you eat, portion size, all affects your energy levels throughout the day. And manipulating these small things can change how well you sleep. And obviously, everyone knows that caffeine will keep you up at night. So it'll be best to avoid that if you're trying to go to sleep, or take it in the morning, or substitute out with some nutritional food to help you get that energy instead.
And then we've got just a little bit of time left, and I think everybody is dying to hear about the challenge.
Yeah, this is actually going to be, I think it's safe to say, the part I'm most excited about, which is the challenge. I think it's safe to say that's a we, right, guys? Yeah. And this isn't just about studying for a certification and like silence. This is about, setting that standard of discipline, structure, and growth, and inviting all of you as our listeners to take that journey with us. And it's a 6-week challenge. Um, I'm gonna go over week by week what it's gonna look like. Just a quick, brief overview. We're gonna talk about building a structured routine. So week one is gonna be sort of like an orientation. We're gonna complete those intake forms, set those SMART goals, and do those PRQs just like real clients would do. Week two, we're gonna set up the foundations. We're gonna focus on that anatomy and those movement systems, and share our first 3-day dietary log. Week three, we're going to be looking at the behavior change. We're going to dive into that motivation, accountability, and those workbook exercises. Week four, we're going to do those practice and assessments. We're going to run those mock client intakes, do those trial sessions, and most importantly, reflect. Week five is going to be those exam prep. That NCCPT, it's an optional exam, but we're going to take it on just because we're healing your way. Um, And finally, week 6, we're going to do another self-reflection over the whole 5 weeks, share those results, and celebrate that growth with all you. And for listeners, you guys can all follow along. Maybe you're not prepping for an exam, but you can log, those meals, set your own SMART goals, and take part in that weekly focus. And, someone ignorant might ask, why does this matter? It's because that challenges build those communities. They take that burden off the individual willpower and replace it with that collective energy. And when you know others that are grinding alongside you, quitting stops feeling like an option. So I'm asking all of you, join us, rise with us. And this is bigger than just fitness. It's about that discipline, accountability, and transformation in real time.
I'm excited. Is there a space where our listeners can kind of share their progress with us?
That's where I would say you could redirect to all of our social media links, our Instagram, our TikTok, Rumble, YouTube, all at Healing Your Way. Um, and I think that wraps it up for closing thoughts. I think for me, I'll just say, don't just listen, act, track your meals, assess your health, set that one SMART goal this week, or even better, join this challenge that we're doing now with us. And I would say fitness is not just about, lifting those weights or passing those exams. It's about lifting yourself into a new standard of health, discipline, and purpose.
Absolutely.
I would just like to add, if you're watching this podcast and you're able to pick up what we're talking about and apply it to your life, then that's great. But if you need a little help taking that first step, then I would say, as Alex said, this would be like a great opportunity to take your first step and see where your fitness journey takes you.
Any final thoughts, Michael? You feeling good?
Yeah, I feel like they hit everything.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today for What's Up Wednesdays, the professionals at the Roundtable. If you like everything that the boys are talking about, check them out on Figuring It Out Friday. And keep your eyes peeled because we have a new podcast coming out this week about what women deal with, all about women, and just going through life. As always, you can find Healing Your Way on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, all the places. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all the things. It really helps us out. I love you all so much, and I'll see you next week.